Elena arrived at her sister's naming ceremony with a wide smile and her arms full of gifts. She had chosen each one carefully: a tiny gold bracelet for the baby, a blanket embroidered with the baby's name, and a big basket of fruits for the guests. Everyone greeted her warmly at first. Her uncles clapped her back, her aunties hugged her, and her father smiled proudly. But Elena felt it almost immediately: the strange air between her and her younger sister Maya. Maya, who used to run into her arms and call her "my second mom," now only offered a quick hug and an awkward smile. Still, Elena tried to stay cheerful. She chatted with relatives, laughed when people teased her about being the rich auntie, and admired the baby from across the room. When it was time for the official naming, the pastor said a prayer, and everyone clapped. The baby looked so peaceful in her white gown, and Elena's heart swelled with love. After the ceremony, Elena walked toward Maya with a warm smile. "She's so beautiful, Maya," she said softly. "Can I hold her?" Before she could even reach out, Maya's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Don't touch my baby. You're disgusting." The room went silent. The laughter, the music, even the baby's cooing seemed to stop. Every face turned toward them. Elena froze, her hand still halfway in the air. She thought she had misheard, but the look on Maya's face was clear: anger, disgust, and something else she couldn't name. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Her aunt coughed to break the tension. Someone tried to change the subject, but it was too late. The words hung heavy in the air. Elena slowly lowered her hand, her chest tightening. Her face burned with embarrassment as she forced a weak smile and stepped back. She could feel the eyes on her: pity from some, confusion from others. She wanted to ask why. "What did I do?" But her voice wouldn't come out. Instead, she quietly walked to her seat, pretending everything was fine, pretending the world hadn't just crashed around her. For the rest of the event, she stayed silent. She didn't touch her food, didn't take pictures, and didn't look in Maya's direction again. When the ceremony ended, she slipped out before anyone could stop her. The sound of laughter followed her to the car, but to her it felt far away, like she no longer belonged in that family. As she sat behind the wheel, tears streamed down her face. One public insult had broken years of love, sacrifice, and sisterhood. In that moment, Elena didn't just lose her sister, she lost the family she thought she still had. She was the protector. That was what everyone used to call Elena. From the day their mother died, she had taken on the role of both sister and mother to Maya. She was only 15 then, but she learned how to cook, wash, and care for a crying little girl who clung to her every night. Maya grew up believing Elena could fix anything. When she was scared of the dark, Elena slept beside her. When she was bullied in school, Elena marched down there to confront the bullies. Their father worked far away, so it was mostly the two of them against the world. As they got older, their bond grew stronger. Maya often said, "You're my second mom," and Elena would laugh and call her "my baby girl." That bond pushed Elena to work hard. She promised herself that Maya would never lack anything, no matter how tough life got. Years later, when Maya got into college, it was Elena who paid the bills. She worked extra shifts, skipped vacations, and sometimes went hungry so Maya could have enough. She paid Maya's rent, bought her books, and sent money for food. When Maya wanted to start a small fashion business after graduation, Elena was the one who funded it. She was proud that her baby sister was finding her own path. But everything changed when Darren came into the picture. At first, Elena liked him. He was polite, charming, and funny. He treated Maya like a queen and always said the right things. But something about his smile bothered Elena. It never quite reached his eyes. He often made little jokes about how close the sisters were, how Maya seemed to worship Elena. It started as teasing, but soon it became something darker. After the wedding, Elena noticed small changes in Maya. The phone calls became fewer. When they did talk, Maya's tone was cold, distracted. She no longer shared things the way she used to. One afternoon, Elena visited their house unannounced. She noticed how Darren looked at her, not with warmth, but with a strange smirk. That night, Maya called her later, sounding angry. "You embarrass me," she said. "You always want to act like my mother." Elena was shocked. She had done nothing wrong. But she didn't argue. She just apologized, thinking Maya was stressed. The distance grew. Darren slowly poisoned Maya's mind. whispering things Elena could never prove. He would tell her that Elena was jealous, that she wanted to control her, that she was trying to ruin their marriage. And Maya believed him. Elena tried to ignore it. She told herself Maya would come around. She still sent money whenever her sister asked. When Maya's business started struggling, Elena helped again. When Maya got pregnant, Elena bought baby things even before the shower. Deep down, she hoped the baby would bring them closer again. When the naming ceremony came, Elena dressed beautifully and carried her best smile. She saw it as a new beginning. She thought Maya would see her love and remember who she was, the sister who raised her, protected her, and gave her everything she could. But instead, she was met with public humiliation. As those words, "Don't touch my baby. You're disgusting," echoed in her ears, everything inside Elena broke. She realized that the bond she had fought so hard to keep had already died long before that day. Later that night, she sat alone in her apartment, staring at old photos. Pictures of two smiling sisters, holding each other tightly, full of love and promise. She remembered every sacrifice she had made, every tear, every sleepless night, every prayer whispered for Maya's happiness. And yet, that happiness had turned into bitterness. Elena finally understood that she had given so much of herself that there was nothing left. She had built Maya's world piece by piece, only for Maya to use those same pieces to build a wall between them. The naming ceremony was supposed to bring healing. Instead, it marked the end of everything Elena had ever believed in: family, loyalty, and unconditional love. That night, she made a quiet promise to herself. She would stop trying to save people who didn't want to be saved. For the first time in her life, she would try to protect someone else, herself. The day after the naming ceremony, Elena woke up with a heavy heart. Her eyes were swollen from crying all night. She still couldn't believe what had happened. Her own sister had called her disgusting in front of everyone. Her phone buzzed nonstop. At first she ignored it, but curiosity got the better of her. When she finally checked, her heart sank. The family WhatsApp groups were full of gossip. Everyone was talking about the incident. Some messages said, "What could Elena have done for Maya to react like that?" Others simply said, "So sad." Elena scrolled in silence, her throat tightening. She knew how fast gossip spread in her family. One small thing became a storm by evening. A few minutes later, her phone rang. It was her aunt, the one who always tried to keep peace in the family. "Elena, my dear," her aunt began in a soft voice. "Please don't cry over what happened. Maybe your sister is just jealous, but you've done enough for her. You can't keep giving your whole life to people who don't appreciate it." Elena listened quietly, tears rolling down her face. "Auntie, I don't even know what I did wrong," she whispered. Her aunt sighed. "You didn't do anything wrong, my child. Some people can't stand the ones who help them climb. Let it go." After the call ended, Elena sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. She thought about everything she had done for Maya, paying her bills, funding her business, being there through every hard moment. And this was how it ended? With shame and gossip? At work later that day, she got an email from her accountant. It was about her investment portfolio. One of her major investments was Maya's boutique business. Elena had put in a lot of money, hoping it would help her sister grow and eventually stand on her own feet. The accountant's message said, "We need to decide whether to continue funding the boutique or withdraw the investment this quarter." Elena stared at the screen for several minutes. Her chest tightened. This was the moment she had been avoiding, the decision to finally let go. When she got home that evening, the apartment felt emptier than usual. She made herself tea but didn't drink it. The words "you're disgusting" echoed in her mind again and again. She opened her laptop and went through old photos of her and Maya. Birthdays, graduations, Christmas mornings. So many smiles. So much love. How had it all turned so ugly? Her hands trembled as she opened her banking app. She looked at the numbers. The money she had invested in Maya's dream. It wasn't just money. It was her heart, her trust, her love, all in one account. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and clicked withdraw. As she watched the transaction complete, she felt something strange, a mix of sadness and relief. It was like closing a door she had kept open for too long. Then she picked up her phone and typed a message to Maya. She didn't plan it. The words just flowed straight from her heart. "You said I'm disgusting. I believe you now. I won't touch your baby, your money, or your life anymore. She read the message twice before hitting send. Minutes passed. No reply. Just silence. Elena stared at her screen until it went dark. She placed the phone down, leaned back, and let out a long breath. The pain was still there, but underneath it, something new was growing: peace. For the first time in her life, she wasn't saving anyone. She wasn't trying to fix, explain, or prove anything. She was simply choosing herself. Outside, the city lights flickered through her window. Elena closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "It's over." And in that quiet moment, something inside her shifted. A small but powerful beginning of freedom. Days later, Maya's business began to struggle without Elena's financial support. The suppliers who used to trust her stopped delivering goods because payments were late. Bills piled up, rent was overdue, and the shop's shelves began to look emptier each day. At first, Maya tried to act calm. She told her employees everything would be fine, but deep down, she was panicking. Darren, her husband, noticed her stress and grew angry. Instead of comforting her, he shouted, "This is your fault, Maya. You've ruined everything." He snapped one evening as he threw a pile of unpaid bills on the table. Maya tried to explain. Elena pulled her money out. "I didn't expect her to." "Of course she did," Darren interrupted. "You pushed her too far. You embarrassed her in front of everyone. Now look where that got us." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "You told me she was trying to control me," she whispered. Darren turned away. "I said what I thought was true. But you're the one who shouted at her, not me." The words hit her hard. That night, Maya sat alone in the dark shop, staring at the bills. She felt small, helpless, and full of regret. Meanwhile, Elena was slowly finding her balance again. For the first time in years, she focused on herself. She threw her energy into her career, worked on new projects, and even started seeing a therapist. Her therapist helped her talk about her pain, the betrayal, the guilt, and the feeling of emptiness after losing someone she loved so deeply. Some sessions ended with tears, others with a quiet smile. She began journaling every night, writing down her thoughts and feelings. On weekends, she joined a book club and started making new friends. People who didn't know her as Maya's sister, but simply as Elena. It felt freeing. Yet, even in her healing, guilt haunted her. Some nights, she dreamed of the baby. The soft cheeks, the tiny hands reaching out. She would wake up crying, missing the family that once was. No matter how strong she tried to be, she still loved her sister. The family, however, didn't make things easier. Word of Elena pulling her support from Maya spread quickly. Some relatives called her cold and heartless. They said she was punishing Maya too harshly. "Elena, she's your sister," one cousin said over the phone. "You can't just cut her off like that. Blood is thicker than water." Elena listened quietly. "You don't know everything," she said softly before ending the call. Every word of judgment stung, but she didn't try to explain. She had learned that sometimes silence was stronger than defending yourself. While Elena worked on her healing, Maya's life continued to fall apart. The boutique finally shut down. The landlord locked the doors after months of unpaid rent. Darren became colder and distant. He blamed Maya for everything, for losing Elena's support, for trusting him, for being weak. One night, after another argument, Darren packed a small bag and walked out. "I can't do this anymore," he said. "You've brought nothing but trouble since your sister cut you off." Maya begged him to stay, but he didn't even look back. For days she didn't eat. She barely slept. The baby's cries were the only sound in the house. She thought about calling Elena many times, but stopped herself out of pride. She didn't want to admit she was wrong. But the silence became unbearable. Finally, one evening, she picked up the phone and called. Elena answered after the second ring. Her voice was calm, polite, almost distant. "Hello, Maya." Maya didn't greet her. She went straight into anger. "You're happy now, aren't you?" she said bitterly. "You've always wanted to see me fail. You finally got what you wanted." Elena frowned. "What are you talking about? You pulled out your money, you left me stranded. You knew I couldn't survive without your help. You've always wanted to control me." Maya's voice cracked with emotion. Elena took a deep breath. For a moment, she wanted to shout back, but she stopped herself. Her voice stayed calm and steady. "No, Maya," she said softly. "I never wanted to control you. I wanted to see you grow. But I can't grow for you. There was silence on the line. Maya didn't know what to say. Her anger melted into quiet tears. Elena, she whispered, but the rest of her words were lost in sobs. Elena's eyes filled with tears too, but she didn't break. I love you, Maya, she said, her voice trembling. But love doesn't mean losing myself. I can't keep saving you if you keep hurting me. Maya couldn't reply. The line stayed silent until Elena finally said, "Take care of yourself," and ended the call. That night, Maya sat on the floor, phone still in her hand, crying harder than she ever had. For the first time, she realized her sister's withdrawal wasn't revenge, it was freedom. And on the other side of the city, Elena sat by her window, looking up at the stars. Her heart ached, but beneath the pain was peace. She knew she had done the right thing. Sometimes love meant holding on, but sometimes it meant letting go, even when it hurt the most. One evening, Elena heard a soft knock on her apartment door. It was late, and she wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, she froze. Maya was standing there. Her eyes were swollen, her hair messy, and she looked completely broken. She was holding her baby in one arm and a small bag in the other. Tears streamed down her face. "Elena," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, can I come in?" Elena stepped aside silently and let her in. Maya sat on the couch, clutching the baby close as if afraid someone might take her away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the baby's quiet breathing. Finally, Elena asked softly, "What happened?" Maya broke down. "He left me," she said between sobs. "Darren left. He took all the money from my account and disappeared." Elena's heart sank. "What do you mean he left?" "I woke up this morning and he was gone. His phone is switched off. He took my savings, the business money, everything. I don't even know where to start." Elena sat beside her, stunned. She wanted to be angry, but all she felt was pity. Maya looked so lost, so fragile. After a long silence, Maya spoke again, her voice trembling. "There's something else I need to tell you." Elena turned to her, waiting. Maya couldn't look her in the eye. "That day at the naming ceremony, when I shouted at you," she paused, wiping her tears. "Darren told me you were saying things behind my back. He said you told people that my baby might not be his." Elena's mouth fell open. She stared at Maya, speechless. "What?" she whispered. Maya nodded weakly. "He said you were jealous of me, that you wanted to destroy my marriage. I was so angry, I didn't even stop to think. I just believed him." Elena felt the air leave her lungs. She stood up, shaking her head in disbelief. "After everything I did for you, you believed that?" Her voice was calm, but her heart was breaking all over again. Maya began to cry harder. "I know. I was stupid. I let him poison my mind. I see it now. He used me. He used both of us." Elena turned away, tears filling her eyes. For years, she had carried the pain of that moment, wondering what she did wrong. And now she knew. It wasn't her fault at all. It was lies. Lies told by someone who couldn't stand the love between two sisters. She sat back down slowly, her voice quiet but firm. "You believed him because it was easier than believing in me." Maya looked up, her eyes wide with guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. I destroyed everything. I hurt the only person who ever loved me for real." Elena reached out and took the baby from her arms. The little girl blinked up at her with innocent eyes, unaware of the storm that had torn their family apart. Elena kissed her forehead gently. "I don't hate you, Maya," she said softly. "But I can't forget what happened. You didn't just break my heart. You broke our bond." Maya sobbed uncontrollably. "I'll do anything to make it right," she cried. "Please, just don't shut me out completely." Elena looked at her, her face calm but sad. "I'm not shutting you out, but I can't go back to the way things were. Trust isn't something you rebuild in a day." For a while, they sat together in silence. Maya cried quietly while Elena rocked the baby gently. There was pain, but also a strange peace, as if something heavy had finally lifted between them. When the baby fell asleep, Elena handed her back to Maya. "You can stay here tonight," she said softly. "You and the baby need rest." Maya nodded, too tired to speak. That night, as Elena watched her sister sleep on the couch with her baby in her arms, she felt both sorrow and strength. The truth had finally come out. but it came with scars that would take time to heal. Elena knew she would forgive Maya. Not because she forgot, but because holding on to the pain would only keep her stuck in the past. Forgiveness, she realized, wasn't about erasing what happened. It was about setting herself free. And as she turned off the lights and whispered a quiet prayer, she knew this was not the end of their story, just the beginning of something new, fragile but real. Forgiveness without forgetfulness. Weeks later, Elena helped Maya find a lawyer to go after Darren legally. The lawyer promised to do everything possible to track him down and recover what he had stolen. Elena attended the first meeting with Maya, helping her understand the legal documents and procedures. She offered emotional support, but she didn't offer money. When the lawyer later asked if she wanted to reinvest in Maya's business, Elena shook her head gently. No, she said. She needs to build this one on her own. Maya didn't argue. She understood now. Her eyes showed gratitude, not expectation. For the first time in her life, she wasn't looking at Elena as a savior, but as someone she wanted to be like. In the weeks that followed, Maya started going to therapy. At first, it was hard for her to open up. She cried during most sessions, blaming herself for believing Darren's lies. But slowly, she began to heal. She learned how to forgive herself, how to set boundaries, and how to dream again. Elena supported her from a distance. She would send encouraging messages like, "I'm proud of you," or "Keep going. You're doing well." But she never stepped in to fix things for Maya. It was time for both of them to grow in their own ways. Meanwhile, Elena's own life began to take a new shape. She continued therapy too, learning how to let go of guilt and find peace. One day, during a session, her therapist said, "You've turned your pain into strength. Have you thought about helping other women do the same?" That question stayed with her. A few months later, Elena launched a mentorship foundation for single women who were starting over after betrayal, heartbreak, or loss. She named it New Dawn Foundation. She used her story to inspire others, not as a victim, but as a survivor. She taught them how to rebuild their lives, how to handle finances, and how to believe in themselves again. It wasn't easy at first, but soon women began to come from different places, sharing their own stories. Elena listened to them, guided them, and watched them grow. Each success story reminded her that her pain had found a purpose. One evening, as she sat in her small office, surrounded by photos of smiling women from the foundation, Elena wrote in her journal, "I learned that love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means letting go." Maya visited her sometimes with the baby. The visits were calm and warm. They would sit on the balcony, watching the baby play on the floor. They didn't talk much about the past anymore. They didn't need to. Maya had started a new small business, one she managed on her own. It wasn't as big as before, but it was honest and steady. She often told Elena, "I'm learning to walk without holding anyone's hand." Elena would smile, proud of her sister's growth. Both sisters were healing, not as they used to be, but as two women who had finally learned that love was not about control or dependence. It was about respect, space, and quiet understanding. They didn't need to be as close as before to be connected. Their bond now was quieter, stronger, and real, built not on need, but on truth. Elena visited Maya's house months later. The afternoon sun poured gently through the windows, filling the small living room with warmth. Maya had just finished setting the table when the front door opened. "Elena," she said softly, smiling. Her eyes were full of emotion, calm, grateful, and a little teary. Before Elena could respond, a tiny pair of footsteps pattered across the tiled floor. The baby, now walking confidently, ran straight toward her and wrapped tiny arms around her leg. Elena froze for a moment, her heart swelling. Slowly, she bent down and lifted the baby into her arms. The little girl giggled and touched Elena's face, innocent and happy. Across the room, Maya watched them with tears shining in her eyes. She didn't say anything and she didn't need to. Her look said everything. "Thank you, I'm sorry, and I love you," all at once. Elena smiled softly. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The pain, the misunderstandings, the months of silence, they all melted away in that small, tender moment. The baby laid her head on Elena's shoulder, and Elena gently stroked her back. She looked at Maya and whispered, "She's grown so much." Maya nodded, her voice shaky. "She missed you." Elena smiled again. her eyes glistening with quiet peace. In her heart, a voice whispered, clear and calm. She told me not to touch her baby. But some bonds heal themselves, not through words but through time. The room was filled with a deep silence, the kind that didn't need fixing. It was the silence of forgiveness, of understanding, of love reborn in a gentler form. Elena placed the baby gently back in Maya's arms. She stood up, took one last look at them, and smiled, peaceful, strong, and finally free. The woman who once sought approval had found something far greater. Peace in walking away, and strength in coming back with love instead of pain. Hey friends! Thanks for sticking around until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time.